Okay, good morning, everyone. Plenty of seats down front. I would encourage you to come down closer. So thank you all for being here this morning for what I think is a very important discussion that we're going to have today. I also appreciate the professors allowing students to come to today's event. We even have an English class here who discusses rhetoric and organizational, perfect. Rhetoric and argumentation. So hopefully you'll be able to stay for the whole 2 hours. So there are a lot of things that have occurred over the last month here on this incredible campus of this absolutely fantastic public land-grant university. We've had a lot of dialogue about important issues. I can tell you that I have learned a lot in the last month. I've talked to many people inside the U of A community and those outside in the community of Southern Arizona, and I've learned a lot. And I'll tell you that there have been mistakes made. I am very focused on how we learn from these mistakes, and today is meant to be continuing that process of listening. We've got a great panel that we'll get to in just a few minutes, but I wanted to just make some opening comments. So, I think we have to acknowledge that, societies are judged by how they deal with their most vulnerable and marginalized populations. And we have a great opportunity at the University of Arizona to discuss some important issues about equity, about inclusion, about free speech, about how we dialogue with each other. And I'm hoping that today we'll have an opportunity to start that. We've already started it in hours and hours of meetings and discussions about what can we learn? What can we learn from the events of the last month? I think that this will be the first, I hope, of a conversation that will bring us all closer together. There are many experts in the area. We have many experts that we've got a panel assembled today to discuss them. And so I think that, there's a lot written about civil discourse and dialogue. We're lucky at the university to have an incredible center for civil discourse that I hope that we can draw upon their expertise to help guide us through this discussion that we're going to have as a community. I think we are unique in many ways by where we are, the events that have formed this community over decades, if not hundreds of years. And I think it's a real opportunity for us, as David Brooks talks about in his book, The Second Mountain, to think about the beautiful tapestry that we have at the University of Arizona. And we can either be rippers of the tapestry or we can be weavers. And I think by learning from each other, we can weave together a very powerful community and university that is open to dialogue about important issues like that we'll begin a discussion today about here in public. Also, I think there are many experts that I would like to see come to campus that can help us and guide us through these issues. I'm reminded of the Arthur Brooks book, Love Thy Enemy. I have a very good friend at Stanford University, Fred Luskin, whose work was instrumental in helping solve the violence in the Northern Ireland conflict. And he talks about forgiveness. So over the coming months, with input from everybody, every stakeholder in the community, every stakeholder in this university, I think we have a great opportunity to listen and to forge a pathway forward that will be a beacon and an example for other universities around the world. Moreover, I obviously come from my own story, and as does everyone here. It's interesting, you know, I usually default to sports metaphors. I won't today, but I am guided by my years of doing cardiac surgery. And when things go wrong with a cardiac surgical procedure, when people have complications or they die, we have scheduled monthly open dialogue called morbidity and mortality conferences. And I think that's what we're in the middle of right now. We're in the middle of assessing how we interact with visitors who come to our campus, how we monitor them, how we work with them. We're in the middle of the dialogue about what respect we have for each other, and what rules and regulations that we're going to choose to follow. I can say that the most important thing that I do in my job is to provide a safe campus, safety for everyone. And we take every threat that we hear very seriously. And my job is to make sure that everybody is safe on this campus. Moreover, you know, in medicine, there are many ways to assess vital signs. It's really hard, having just had my 4th kidney stone, to assess pain, to assess fear. There's no thermometer you can put under one's tongue to measure their fear. Now, you can look at their blood pressure, you can look at their heart rate, you can look at their pupils maybe dilating, their hands and palms sweating. But people have real fear. They have real pain. And they have it based on many things that have gone on in their life. And I think we have to acknowledge that. And we have to make sure that we provide support and safety for those people who don't feel safe and who have fear. But at the same time, there are rules. And we will obey the law. And so I think this will be a first of many conversations. We're incredibly fortunate today through an interview that I did with one of the reporters at the ABOR meeting recently, named Nancy Montoya, who is here today. She is a lifelong resident of Southern Arizona. She is an internationally recognized expert in the border. She's won multiple Emmys and Peacock Awards. And as we were dialoguing and talking about questions that she was asking me in my interview, I said, I think you would be the perfect person to come here and lead this discussion and help us through some of these difficult issues. The other thing I'll say before I turn it over to Nancy is that I absolutely support free speech. I absolutely support the right to protest without question. It's the bedrock of our democracy. And I look forward to this being the first of many conversations. So Nancy, with that, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you for being here, and thanks to all the panelists for being here and leading the discussion.
Well, thanks a lot, Dr. Robbins. I'm in a kind of a weird position here. I've covered the border for almost 40 years and immigration issues. I'm a 6th-generation Arizonan. Our family owns the oldest working ranch in Arizona. We were Mexicanos one day, and then the Gadsden Purchase happened, and we became American. So I have a long history, and students, don't think you're alone. In my day here at the university in the late 60s, early 70s, we were where you are today. We were protesting the deaths of many Latinos in the Vietnam War. Your pain is real, and I think this university is taking it seriously. I know you may not believe that right now, but there's an effort being made. Please recognize that effort. Universities all across the country are not giving their students a chance to be heard. Take this opportunity, speak loudly, speak your mind, be heard, because these people up here are here to listen. Let me introduce you to those who are on this panel. Right over there is Ron Wilson. Ron Wilson was a judge in South Tucson at one point, but he's now the director of a new department that's called the Title IX Equity and Inclusion Department. Very important department here at the university. Nolan Cabrera, who many of you know, Dr. Nolan Cabrera, is an associate professor in the Center for the Study of Higher Education here at the university. Jeff Goldberg, to my right, is the interim senior vice president for academic affairs and a provost. Let me see, I'm going to get it right? Not Nadeline. Nadeline Masters is the current student body president and a young woman I listen a lot to. I think she's very wise in many of her perspectives. Then we have Brian Carter, who I just met this morning. Nice to meet you, Dr. Carter. He received his PhD from the University of Missouri, Columbia, and is currently an associate professor. I've elevated you in Africana Studies. And way down there is Dr. Anna Ochoa O'Leary, who I have known since we were 2 years old. We went to kindergarten together in Clifton, Morenci area. We came to the university together, and we're lifelong friends. What I'd like to do is just set a couple of rules. I mean, this is really meant to be driven from the audience. And what we'd like to do is have you come up to one of the two microphones. You have 2 minutes, say whatever you want, however you want it, but please be respectful. This is being live casted. So if you could refrain from any profanity, that would be greatly appreciated. Let me go to each one of our folks here, and I'll have them introduce themselves. However, there are a couple of other ways that you can get messages to us here. There's folks walking around with cards. Cards, where are they? Well, they're cards that you can fill out and ask questions. If you don't feel comfortable going up to the microphone, you can do that. This is being live casted right now on Arizona Public Media, so it's on azpm.org. There'll be a link there where you can submit some questions if you like. So there's all sorts of venues for you to talk. And this isn't the end of the conversation. This is the beginning. So keep that in mind, and let me go to each one of our panelists and let them tell you a minute about themselves. Start over there, Ron.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Whoa.
How about now? All right, good morning. I want to thank you all for coming this morning to this extremely important conversation. She said, my name is Ron Wilson. My preferred pronouns are he, him, and his. I've been here at the University of Arizona since November. Prior to that, I served as the Chief Diversity Officer, Social Equity Director, Fraud, Waste, and Abuse Officer, Ombuds, and Open Records Officer at a university in Northwest Pennsylvania. My areas of specialty in terms of the law are in problem-solving courts and problem-solving justice, social justice, and restorative justice. I've also taught at the Africana Studies Department here at the University of Arizona, the Civil Rights Movement, Black politics, Jim Crow, as well as the slave period, 1440 to 1885. And I thank you again for giving me an opportunity to serve on this panel.
All right. I'm Nolan Cabrera, Associate Professor in the Center for the Study of Higher Education. Been at the university for about 10 years now. And I appreciate y'all being here because this is, especially Border Patrol on campus, has been an issue that's been here the entire time that I've been here, especially because I came in right on the wake of AZP 1070. And this is one of the first times that we're actually at least seeing some movement on this. I'm not satisfied with how far we've gone at this point, but yeah, so then my area of expertise, I studied the racial dynamics in college campuses, and particularly from perspective of whiteness, and also was involved in the Mexican-American Studies controversy in Tucson Unified.
Great. Jeff Goldberg. I came to the University of Arizona in 1985 as an assistant professor, and over the last 34 years, I've had many opportunities to do great things at this institution. I was originally born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, inner city kid. I have an awful lot in common with the students here, both in how my family was, and in particular the strength of my parents. I went to a high school that was completely integrated. I went to, in grade school, right at the time when Pittsburgh was integrating schools as well. And basically I was the only family, and my father was the only person that really supported such things. What you learn in that environment is that if you cannot get along with people and understand problems from someone else's perspective, it is almost impossible to be successful and to move forward. So I'm well known on campus for being able to look at things from multiple perspectives and get to solutions that everybody is reasonably happy with. I'm absolutely honored to be here. I'm a late fill-in for Kendall Washington White, and I want to thank everyone else for being here as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Madeline Masters, and I'm this year's student body president. I'm a senior studying law and sociology, and I'm really here to listen to the students. That's my job. As ASUA, our mission is to serve, engage, and empower, and so that's really what we're here to do today. And so I challenge all the students in the audience today to speak, come forward, let us know, say what's on your mind, and know that I am listening. ASUA is here to represent you and do whatever we can to make sure that all students on campus feel safe and feel like they can take part in this academic adventure. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Carter. I'm an associate professor in the Africana Studies program. I'm here in two capacities. The first is as a faculty member in Africana Studies, where we teach many of the things that we're going to be talking about today, looking at the similarities, the differences between the struggles of people of underrepresented groups and how we're really fighting for equality here in America. So those are the things that we look at, and I really hope to learn not only from some of the comments here, things that we can take back to Africana Studies to not only improve what we do, but also spread that to some of the other faculty members in the College of Humanities. The second way that I'm here is a part of that historic legacy that was a part of what got this conversation going in the first place. A few years ago, when the students put together a list of demands to this university, I was a part of that task force that the previous president put together. And although the results of that didn't come out exactly as we had planned, something got going there. And I think that this is a continuation of that earlier attempt to really jumpstart some of the efforts that we have, I think, ongoing here at the university. So, like the others, I'm here to listen as well.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Anna Ochoa O'Leary. I'm an associate professor and department head of the Department of Mexican American Studies here at the University of Arizona. I'm a 3-time alum. I've been here for a long time. As a Mexican American Studies scholar, a lot of what we see today is under the purview of what we study every day. Immigration, the impact of certain structural issues and inequalities on Mexican American populations, a history of a fight and a struggle for educational equity that we see here today. I'm also the co-director of the Binational Migration Institute. This is an institute dedicated to not only helping students become professional in the study of immigration, but it gathers scholars together across campus to study how immigration enforcement impacts all communities, not just undocumented immigrants, because we all share in the pain that we have been exposed to just recently. And I'll just take a short point of privilege to also acknowledge and thank the indigenous populations upon who this land that we share and we work together and share, the Tohono O'odham and the Ayoeme, giving thanks and acknowledging that we sit on these lands with them.
Thank you, panelists. Well, it's time for you folks to be heard. Microphone there, microphone there. Speak your mind. Give us your name, please.
Hello, hello.
There you go.
My name is David DeCastro. I went to the Lute Olson very first basketball camp, and so I'm a huge U of A fan, and I had season tickets, 19th row for my whole life, and I've been a huge supporter of the U of A, but back in 2012, I needed to speak to somebody, and all these people are all new because all the other people are gone. And this gentleman right here, I had asked to speak with through his provost, and nobody would listen. Now, I'm 34 years ago, I went in the Navy. The VA left me to die for 30 years, not a single asthma inhaler. Then I'd come back home to Tucson to help take care of my mom. And I start dating a girl who works in journalism. I won't mention her name. You guys will all know who these people are. And she's crying to me every night saying that they went with a bunch of U of A professors to a meeting up in Sacramento with other professors. And then this guy called her room, sent her emails from a Yahoo account. Everything could be subpoenaed. And I tried to talk to everybody. And and this guy, let me tell you guys in this audience, not only did he not get disciplined when she tried to get it disciplined, and she's from a country in the Middle East. So she was used to being, women get beat up over there. So she came here, and it turns out that this gentleman not only didn't get disciplined in this room, then he went to this room and got a promotion on the same day, okay? Mind you, then I got harassed by the U of A police not to deal with this anymore. And so I walked across the U of A campus with my little U of A hat and my backpack and walked in as a CEO and recorded everything that this dean had to say, okay? And nobody would help me. But I'm not going to be defamed by the U of A. And the U of A is, I want to just make this straight because I own a patent to make all the embroidered furniture. My first catalog is here for the University of Arizona.
David,
Okay, time's
thank
up.
you very
But
much.
I need to speak to somebody about this because otherwise it's, I have nothing else to deal with because you guys aren't dealing with the real issues. And I'd be happy to leave my phone number with someone.
Thank you, David. Another question.
Good morning. My name is Marla Pacheco. I'm a community organizer with La Coalición de Derechos Humanos. And we are scared. We are in fear of having Border Patrol on campus. We are more in fear that President Robbins is apologizing to our Del Cueto after the threats that he made against the students. This discussion was organized behind doors without the input of the students, of the faculty, of the community, because this impacts all of us. And I see you all sitting there, and I'm very disappointed to see some of you up there. So what I want to do, I want to call out Ana Ochoa, Larry, and Nolan Cabrera to stand on the right side of history. You really want to support this community? You really want to hear what we have to say as students and a community? Join our movement. Be on this side with us instead of sitting up there on a panel that has nothing to do with us.
Would someone like to?
Shame on Robbins! Shame on Robbins! Shame on Robbins! For not being on stage and for tokenizing! His POC friends!
Okay,
I didn't hear that.
you're being heard. I'm not a token. Thank you. Neither is Ana Ochoa, neither is Nolan Cabrera. Okay, we're part of this community. We've been part of this community.
Join us. Are you Nolan? Are you going to sit on this side with us? With the students, with the community, with the faculty?
Nolan?
Are you, Anna? Will you sit on this side with us? Get up! Órale! Get up and stand with us.
I guess I would ask, why are you only focusing on the two of us?
Because being people of color. That's my reason why.
Ron's a person of color.
I'm focusing on you.
And you're absolutely allowed to do.
Going to join us, yes or no?
Taking credit for work. What things you haven't done?
Ana, would you like to say something?
This is difficult. It's difficult to, a lot of conundrums that we went through to either participate or not. When we first issued our letter to President Robbins, we were, by the way, one of the first faculty bodies that issued that letter to Dr. Robbins about our outrage, our concern about student safety. Our department was subsequently threatened, so we have taken quite a bit of a beating, right? But that's okay. Subsequently, there was another statement over which we also, I think, at least me, really put our careers in jeopardy in many ways. So at our first meeting with Dr. Robbins, we, as a faculty, the MAS faculty, we met with Robbins and Professor Goldberg and other members of his staff. We offered, our question was, do you have anybody to help you think through some of these actions? I think probably that offer wasn't taken up right away, but it was ultimately. By that time, there was a lot of water under the bridge, so to speak. So I think my role here is to find a way to come together. Taking sides to injure others is not the solution in my mind. At some point, the injury needs to stop, and that's my philosophy, that's my role, and this is why I'm here. As department head, as many of the roles that I've occupied, different feelings, different hurts come together at some point, and at some point we have to decide to heal. I'm not sure that this is healing. I can only do what instinctually I feel is the right thing to do, which is why I'm here on the panel.
Madeline, you represent students here on campus. You've heard from many of these students. What's your response?
Well, I know a lot of the students in the crowd, and I've talked with a lot of them, and one of the things that I think has been different this year is ASUA, and myself included, has really made an effort to reach out to these students and ensure, and one of the reasons that I'm here is that to make sure that your voice is heard in these conversations. So planning this meeting, planning these different things, looking at what steps are to move forward, I have been there representing students and fighting for what you all want. And that's something that I have never let slip to the wayside. My freshman year is when the list of demands were released. And I know a lot of the folks who were a part of authorizing that document and authoring that demand. And these are things that I do not let go to the wayside. I have brought up in pretty much every meeting that I've been in, and that is something that I've constantly fought for. And so that's why I'm up here, is understanding that as a student government representative, I am responsible, and that is one of the reasons why I chose to be on this panel, is to hear from the crowd, hear from you all, and let you all know that I am also accountable. Please hold me accountable, hold student government accountable, because that is our job. And so I think it would be a loss of a panel if there wasn't a student representative on here to hear those concerns and to fight for them.
Thank you, Natalie. Let's take another question. Give us your name, please.
Good morning. My name is Matthew. I'm the current president of College Republicans on campus here at U of A. One of the main reasons why I've come to speak to you all, and thank you so much for allowing us a platform to speak, is the relentless fear-mongering of certain individuals on campus. And I think we can all agree, making students afraid is not a helpful thing. Your Fourth Amendment right is no unreasonable search or seizure. So with the misconception that CBP and ICE can just come here and abduct you, that's not true. It's not true at all. On top of the fact that Border Patrol was invited here by a club, their right for freedom of speech is just as important as everybody else. The men in uniform should not be banished just because someone disagrees with them. And I'm here because I want to move forward with you all. And I really appreciate everything you guys do. And thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Can we have another question, please?
Hi, my name is Wesley. I'm a former student and a current staff member. And
Can't hear Wesley, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm raising it. We good?
There you
Perfect. Okay. My best friend in the whole world is an illegal immigrant, and we've been going through immigration hell for 2 years now. So I totally get it. Oh, we can say we can call it whatever. I mean, we're just. But the thing is, well, he refers to himself as illegal, so it's fine. But the truth is, we're all entitled to free speech, but there's an appropriate way to do it. And I was appalled that student was facing charges. And then I watched the video, and she's vile. I mean, the way that, she took the video herself, okay? So I'm watching her version of it. There's no spin on it. And the way that she behaved was vile. That's not, she went there specifically to pick a fight. She bullied people, and she showed herself to be a racist at the end of the video. And and you know what?
Okay.
And that's the thing. Whenever she starts
Let's respect each other, please. Let's respect each other.
And I expected this.
He has the right to be heard, okay? Get up to the mic if you want to speak.
And that's
Go
the
ahead.
thing is, I mean, she did. There's the white girl grabbing the phone. It just, the way she presented herself, and I'd love to hear from the student body president, is that's not what I would want to represent me. Now, the way the college Republicans behaved in that scenario, regardless of their viewpoint, their behavior is what I would want to represent me. And I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that has been interesting as I've gone through this whole process is looking at how we deal with disruption on campus, right? And so one of the things that has been a lot of controversy, I know you watched the video and it's the behavior, however you may take it, right? And so one of the questions that was asked is, was it worthy to be charged criminally, right? And there are different processes that we have on place. We have a lot of people who practice free speech on campus. We all know Brother Dean is here. And so there are different avenues that have been taken to deal with those who are disruptive. Typically, and most of the time, those are dealt with through Student Code of Conduct, through Dean of Students. And those are things that are still handled, right, as a violation of disruption or however you want to call it, but dealt with through the Dean of Students office and are handled internally. In this particular situation, we had the incident handled criminally with UAPD and our criminal justice system. And so I think that is the big point of conversation, the point of discussion, is understanding what does it mean for a woman of color to be charged criminally for speaking out versus someone else on campus speaking out and going through the Student Code of Conduct process. And I think that is the key difference in what we're talking about here today. And so and there's a lot of folks, we can agree to disagree on disruption, but I think the big question is, what was the process taken to handle this disruption? And I think that as student body president, I stand on everyone being treated equally through the system if we're gonna go through the system. And so anyone who speaks out and exercises their right should be met with the same process that anyone else, Brother Dean, anyone else on campus goes through.
Okay. Nolan Cavarero?
Oh. So one thing I do want to clear up about this is that there's been this narrative floating around that, people can't get deported at the U of A campus. And I just want to say directly, I've seen it happen on our campus. Back in 2010, a woman got stopped for a moving violation on Mountain going to Second, right in front of the College of Education. And the ICE agents came after and so to sit there and say that it can't happen here, I'm saying it has happened here. And going to the previous comment about sort of what's appropriate, an appropriate form of protest, it's very easy to be even keel when you're not targeted, when you're not under the threat of your family being separated, when you're not constantly under fear that one wrong step is going to mean that you're going to be forced to go back to a country that you do not know. It's very easy to intellectualize that and to make it so that it's not about the very deep-rooted fear and terror that these people are under on a constant basis. So this whole idea of, this is the whole idea that, these folks are calm, these folks are rowdy, so therefore one is better than the other. I completely reject that, because all you're doing is completely disregarding any social context and the very real threat that a number of our students and community members and family members are under on a regular basis.
Thank you, Nolan. Another question. Go ahead. Your name, please?
Sure. My name is Peter Beirusi, and I'm a professor in astronomy here. We heard Dr. Robbins speak about forgiveness as well as the rule of law as if they were two different things. And so I want to speak a little bit on that by quoting William Jennings Bryan in a Supreme Court decision. The freedom of individuals to oppose or challenge police action without thereby risking arrest is one of the principal characteristics by which we distinguish a free nation from a police state. City of Houston versus Hill, number 86-243. These students had a doubly protected First Amendment right, not only for speech, but also to criticize the government, which they felt did not support them. We have students who are suffering as a result with charges. And I feel very strongly that by sitting here without the students being forgiven, we cannot come to a conclusion together. Thank you.
Anyone on the panel care to comment on that? Go ahead, another question.
You have mentioned that you want...
Can you give us your name, please?
My name is Susana Sepulveda. You had mentioned that you want to ensure the safety of all students across campus. My question is, how will you ensure the safety of all students on campus, particularly documented and non-documented students?
President Robbins, would you like to take that one, or somebody on the panel?
No? How about if I take it? And not that I speak, I have the authority to speak at the university level. Hang in there.
Go ahead,
I
Jeff.
didn't want to deal with that. Okay. And it's a difficult problem, there's no doubt. And thank you for the question. So there's a variety of mechanisms that we use. I think the most important thing is that we need to be all vigilant and understand who is on the campus and what are they doing on the campus, and then to be able to communicate that material in a broad way campus-wide. That involves working with students, that involves working with some of our computing systems, and that involves working with police as well to bring police at the right time to the right place with enough I didn't hear that.
Protected speech. How can we be civil with a gun in our face?
So instead of maybe a group chant, maybe you can ask a question.
Yeah.
Ask a question.
Excuse me. I'm struggling a little bit hearing when
Okay.
they do that. Okay, so.
All right.
Yeah.
I was waiting politely at seating there.
I was ready. You were sitting here? I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know there was a line. Go ahead.
Just for clarity, if you want to make a comment, you sit in these numbered seats and then you kind of move through.
Oh.
Yep. Hi. How do I do this? Hi, my name's Eden. I'm a student here. I have a question, but before that, I just wanted to respond to some comments a moment ago.
I'm sorry, Dean, we can hardly hear you.
Sorry.
Kind of speak clearly and.
Sure. So I just wanted to remind us all that. This is, a conversation about free speech, but I think we also need to take into account the very non-disproportional harms and oppression that people of color face at this university. So in response to the Republican Club comment, I think we need to reject this idea that, free speech for everybody. Free speech means the same thing for everybody. I think it means a very different thing for a young white man to demand free speech on a campus versus people who for generations have been oppressed and who on a daily basis face microaggressions in their educational space, who face fear and who face racism at this predominantly white institution. So it's very easy to say we need to be civil, but again, you don't understand because of your white male privilege what these people experience on a daily basis. So my question for the president is, given the increasingly visible and vocal presence of white supremacist, alt-right, and militia groups in Arizona and the US more generally, how will you ensure that your free speech policy will not become a platform for hate speech and other forms of violence? And how will this ongoing disproportional structural violence against people of color factor into this conversation about free speech and who has the right to free speech?
Great.
Okay.
No.
How about
Ron was gonna run.
Ron?
You can take it or you want?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ron.
I was going to say that, thank you for that question. One of the things that's extremely important about not only this forum, but conversations moving forward, is that not only does everyone have an opportunity to be heard, but everyone has an opportunity to participate in the process that's going to allow us to create policies and procedures that will protect the rights of all of our students, faculties, employees, and visitors. So it's going to be critical over the next several months that those individuals not only here present, but individuals who could not make it for a variety of reasons, accept the call from the Office of the President or from the student union to participate in various working groups or steering committees or other types of opportunities for us to come together as a community and create solutions that will allow us to move forward as a university.
Anybody else? Another question? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
So I think the question was relative to white supremacists and Nazi groups, and I lived through Skokie, so I understand what you have to allow regardless of how miserable and how despicable people are. And the way that you deal with that is that you contain it, and you monitor it, and you prepare for that event.
I'm sorry, let him finish, please. Oh. Let him finish, and then you'll have the stage.
Yeah.
Go
and
ahead.
then you prepare for that event. And that's exactly what we're going to do. It's really a question of preparation, and I think that was an issue in this incident as well, that we need to be better prepared for such things. But it's very clear that it is really difficult to just completely stop these things on a public street. You can get a permit to march through Tucson and deliver any message that you really want. On this particular campus, they're going to be able to do that too. The key is being prepared before those events happen.
Sandy?
Hi there. My name is Sandy Soto. I'm a professor of gender and women's studies at the University of Arizona here. I've been a professor at this institution for 18 years. Never in these 18 years have I worked under a president who is so out of touch of what it means to be in the US-Mexico borderlands. We are a Hispanic-serving institution now, and the president has allowed what has happened to happen under his watch, and not just passively. So I would like to call on the president to join the panelists. We have questions for you. We don't have questions for these panelists. Our questions are for you. I am here not just as a faculty member who teaches lots of undocumented students, but also as a member of the Coalition for the Arizona 3 with my colleague Rachel.
Hi. We have.
Can I have your name, please?
My name is Rachel. We have something that we would like the panel. Well, we'd like Robbins to respond to.
Well, no, free speech doesn't mean you can jump in my face and talk and all this garbage. No. I know it is what it is. I would have punched her in the throat.
Oh, that's.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that, Sandy?
Yes, we'll repeat that.
That's
And
the
what you're
tape
hearing
of
is
the
Del
union.
Cueto, the Vice President of the National Border Patrol, referring to...
Excuse me, Sandy, can you please leave the microphone up on the stand,
You're
please?
going in and out.
Okay.
Please, because you're
Sorry.
cutting in and out.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. You're hearing Del Cueto, Robbins' friend, who Robbins met with, who called for these charges. And so we, even though the charges have been dropped, we're not going to stop exposing collusion. Please listen to what Robbins' friend says about Denise Moreno here.
Well, no, free speech doesn't mean you can jump in my face and talk and all this garbage. No. I know it is what it is. I would have punched her in the throat. Flat out. And I'm not embarrassed to say it. Because this is just not cool. If I'm off duty in plain clothes and you come at me like that and you're jumping with I'm not gonna just stand there and
I want Robbins to answer.
So I have never met this man. I find the comments despicable, and I've never met this man. I don't know where you.
Let's hold on.
We're going to answer the previous question. We are going to do exactly what Jeff said. We're going to make sure that this campus is safe. And those kind of comments are unacceptable. Absolutely, hate speech and unacceptable. Well, I think that he was on this campus. He was invited by a group, and he was on this campus. And I did not. I've never met this man. I did not. That is not true. I've never met this man.
Okay, let's continue on. If there's other questions, we'd like to get to them. President Robbins has heard you. He's told you he's never met with Art Del Cueto. I don't know what else he can say to that. Let's get some more questions going.
Hi, my name is Keith Lehrer. I'm here in part because I'm a former emeritus professor. I'm currently a research professor at the Center for Freedom. I was also elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, founded by John Adams. The reason I mention this is it was very important to these people and to me that free speech be acknowledged. And I think the basic comment I should like to make, and I'm very glad that President Robbins is here, is that he has officially, in emails, claimed that the person who was engaging in speech at the event disrupted it. Anybody who looks at the video has got to know she did not disrupt that event. The event continued. The person who apparently organized it shook hands with the person at the end. It was a false charge and an attempt to suppress free speech by criminalizing a student. So thank you very much for that. It's obvious what should be done. The president should acknowledge at least that a mistake was made, as I think should the chief of police. There was no disruption. The case was dismissed by a prosecutor because I'm sure he could see that there was no case to be made out for disruption. It was a simple act. I'm sorry to put it this way. I think it's important to be direct. It was a simple act to attempt to suppress a student engaging in free speech. Thank you.
More questions?
Hi there. My name is Liz Kinnaman. I'm a doctoral candidate in gender and women's studies. The first thing I want to do is a fact check on the Republican comment that was just up here, saying that the Fourth Amendment protects unlawful search and seizure. We actually live in a border zone that is constituted 100 miles out from the actual border. In that border zone, you can check the ACLU website for this. In that border zone, our constitutional rights do not apply. That means that search and seizure can happen without warrants, without order of the law. So it means that we can have all these checkpoints that are set up that are called temporary and actually end up being there for years. It means that people can be picked up and deported off campus. So that's the first fact check. The second fact check is that in the video that was filmed by the student who was speaking out against the Border Patrol, you can hear her saying murder patrol. The reason she says this is because one of the reasons, aside from the direct murders on the part of Border Patrol agents, but the other reason is because the official Border Patrol policy, which you can find in a document from 1994, lists that their policy, their way of monitoring and preventing migrants from crossing the border is called prevention through deterrence. What this means is that they force migrants to cross hostile territory in hopes that they will die. Death through deterrence is what's happening. So it makes sense to me that murder patrol is something that this student would say. So with these facts given, what I'm wondering is why is the presence of armed and uniformed Border Patrol being framed as speech? And what we want from you guys is a commitment that there will be no armed and uniformed Border Patrol on this campus.
Another question.
Hello. Sorry, I'm a bit tall. How y'all doing so far?
Good.
Good.
Well, I am a student.
Can I have your name, please?
Oh, yes. It's
Move your
a bit
face
closer. Hi. I'm Brandon. I am a third-generation immigrant, but I didn't come from Mexico, or I'm not Hispanic, but we escaped the Nazis. When individuals say that a group is a murder patrol, I think of the Gestapo. That's what they equate it to, that the Border Patrol naturally rounds up people and puts them in camps and murders them. Is that the equation we want? Is that what we want to equate them to? I don't think so. To equate them in that way is irresponsible and unbecoming of this university. It really does not represent who we are as a student body. And I understand the president of the student body has made statements saying that she has heard all voices. Well, she hasn't heard mine. She hasn't heard
mine, and you should try going to a classroom where they're under bridges and children are dying.
Can you please sit down, sir? Sir, please sit down.
There's a line out the door to speak, and everybody else gets to speak.
You
And
can
I
speak.
say as much as everybody
You can
else.
speak.
And there was a time in this country where racism was against the law, and you're trying to blur the line, and creating racist environments was also against the law. And now, the way we won our freedom by being brown and loud,
Sir?
now you're trying to criminalize that.
No, we're not.
I come from generations
Sir,
of this struggle,
you're-
indigenous people to this struggle.
Can you get
I will
to-
not wait in your line just to stand by when someone lies. They are dying in El Paso. They are living under bridges, getting shit on by birds. They're out in camps in the middle of nowhere. These are our people, and this is the time where we speak up or we shut up. There is nothing else for us. This is my struggle as much as anybody on the planet. And I will not bow down when I need to speak up. Because equality means sometimes you step up and sometimes you step down. And you should know the difference.
Thank you. He's fine.
Excuse me, let's hear
He's
the
fine.
rest of his.
Relax. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bruce.
All right, excuse
Nothing
me,
that's
reporter,
outrageous.
can you stop, please? Can you guys take a seat, please?
How do you not
He has a right to be heard.
How do you not like that?
So let's all sit down, please.
You know, for people who are so concerned about free speech, it's so easy for them to shut it down. For people who are so
Okay,
concerned...
let's let him. Thank you, guys.
For people-
Thank you.
For people who are so
Excuse me,
concerned with representation, they are quick to point out the color of my skin and that my whiteness equates me to being evil, to being racist, to being oppressive, that I am privileged.
Let him finish.
They are muddying the waters. They came into a state university, shut down speech who were invited on their own behalf in order for a career day. For a career day. Were they arresting anyone? No. Were they murdering anyone? No. They left on their own behalf. They took no one hostage. They sent them to no camp. They did not systematically eliminate them in a gas chamber. No. There is no equation. Border Patrol is made of 52% Hispanics.
I'm sorry, you've reached your 2 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Does someone else have a question? Sir, would you like to stand up and speak?
There's one over here, too.
Hello?
Okay, another question?
Hi, my name is George. I'm a graduate student.
I'm sorry, George, can you come to the mic a little bit more?
My name is George. I'm a graduate student, and my question is, are there any lessons learned or regrets over the response to the students in terms of charging them for their behavior and their protesting, and of the armed Border Patrol agents being on campus in uniform without prior announcement? Has anything been learned on the school? Has anything been learned on the school's part, or is it?
Brian Carter, would you like to take that?
He's not done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or is there, more of a discussion like what the students could do and, protection for free speech of things that we like that are. So, what's the? This type of situation happens.
Lessons learned. Somebody on the panel can take that, Ron?
That's an excellent question. And there have been a series of meetings and discussions, not only amongst the panelists, but a wide variety of people from the community, law enforcement, academic affairs, student affairs, health services, to devise a plan, not just conversations, but action items that we would implement over the next few days, months, and years to ensure that this doesn't happen again. But the conversation needs to be ongoing. We live in a very diverse society and community. You've heard from the variety of opinions this morning that there's a lot of tension. There's still a lot of anger, grief, and pain associated with what's just happened. So it's going to take time for us to heal. The trauma exists, not only the trauma to the individuals that were cited, but also secondary trauma to those who are part of the variety of affinity groups associated with what happened on that day.
I'd like to also comment, as far as lessons learned, I can't really comment on lessons learned because all of us have learned various things, but I think I can comment on activities taken. And I think that in previous administrations, for those of you that have been here for a number of years, this conversation might not have even been happening. And I think that by having the members of this panel of representative of faculty and of students and of staff, that I think that when we start to look at all the input that these individuals have had, Nadalyn and Nolan, with regards to speaking out and helping to educate upper administration on some of the struggles, some of the pain that's going on within the community. That's so important that those voices are here. When I hear about individuals asking them to take a side, they have taken a side and they're standing up for these issues in ways that yes, are maybe behind closed doors initially, but it's very transparent now where we stand. And we all stand for many of the things that are being spoken out on now with regards to free speech. So the actions taken right now include not only the strategic plan, but also many of the conversations that are happening at the college level and at the department level that may not necessarily have been happening were these conversations not a part of our growing and our changing DNA.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you get to a microphone? Nobody can hear you. Can you please get to a microphone?
The Border Patrol and ICE will not be on campus. We're asking for concrete results from this conversation. That's what we're asking for. And no one speaks for himself. He does not speak for the
Okay, please. If you have something to say, please go to a microphone so we can hear you. Okay? Another question over there?
Oh, he's not.
I'm sorry. You had a question.
lessons
I think
learned.
I was in line next.
Okay, go
My
ahead.
name is Carol Brochine or Carol Brochum. I'm from the border. I'm an assistant professor in TLS and the College of Education. On behalf of the Coalition Arizona 3, what we would really like is for our president and for others, including UAPD, to apologize to our students, to the Arizona 3, for how it was handled. That's all, I mean, that's one of many things we're asking for, but at the beginning, without an apology, it feels difficult to move forward. As someone who prepares bilingual teachers to make our classrooms more inclusive for immigrant and undocumented students, how can I reassure my students that they are safe on this campus with Border Patrol and ICE? As an HSI, we believe that we need to form part of a larger network of campuses and border campuses across the US to make a statement that they will not be loud on our campus. That is what we're calling for. But before that, we need to apologize for what happened. We're happy that the charges were dropped, but the fact that they were not dropped until Easter evening at 7 p.m. and students and people were mobilized to prepare to pack that courthouse, that is unjust.
Thank you.
Mic check. The charges should have never happened. The charges should have never happened. We demand an apology from Robbins. From Robbins.
Thank you. If you're looking for immediate results right here, right now, that's not going to happen.
An apology.
Because this is a. This, I'm sorry, I can't, if you want to talk, please take the mic. Please.
Jessica.
Apologize to the students right now for what happened.
Yeah.
You said no. You said no.
Okay. No apology.
Okay, can we continue
go.
to hear from those?
Hi, my name is Carmen, and I'm a
Carmen.
student. I'm a student in the GWS department here on campus, and I just wanted to say that your version of freedom of speech is actually protecting individuals and institutions of violence. And I'm not interested in that kind of free speech. What you're doing is you're emboldening white supremacists to grow and giving them a space in which to flourish. And I'm more interested in what you're going to do about freedom from violence. What about our freedom to an education? What about our right to an education here on campus and to be free from violence, right? The kind of violence that the Border Patrol presence, causes, our communities. Thank you.
Another question?
I do, and I'll ask at the end. First, I'll start. My name is Brian. I'm from Santiago, Chile. I'm kind of first generation.
Oh, hold on, Brian.
All right.
You broke the mic. Okay, let's try again.
All right, so I'll start again. My name's Brian. I'm from Santiago, Chile. I'm a first-generation immigrant. My parents started from less than zero, and they came here to America. In my opinion, they're the American dream. And they did it all through the right process by doing it legally. So because of my beliefs, my raising, I grew up in Tucson, and I have an incredibly diverse group of friends. In my opinion, I'm one of the more inclusive people. I'm with the college Republicans, and in my opinion, they're one of the most inclusive groups on campus. I'm in social justice. My TA was just very yelling at the third generation from Germany, and he walked out. So I'm gonna start asking my question. Well, first of all, I'm genuinely afraid that dropping the charges against Border Patrol, it's gonna give a platform to these people for violence, for me being called a murderer, a white supremacist. What I learned in social justice was I can be called an honorary white, and that's that. So my question is, what can we do to lessen that impact and be more inclusive to those in the right-leaning section of ideology?
Get educated. Jeff?
That's what I'm doing.
Want to take that?
Sure. There's a lot to unpack there, and thank you. Let's not ascribe bad intent to every statement that every person makes. I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't see where you are. Thank you. Everybody here isn't against you, and you're not against everybody else. There's going to be extremes in every situation. We had a situation where we had a student in a very stressful time, in a very stressful situation. When people are under stress, they will do things on the extreme. That's not normal behavior for that particular person. That's okay. We have to understand that people do these kinds of things when they're under stress in difficult environments. It's not that everybody is coming after you and is going to stop your rights, just like it's not that everyone's going to come back and stop everyone else's rights as well. And so I think the real issue here is trying to look at the situation, and I understand the safety piece. You can't be a successful student if you're afraid. You can't be a successful student if you are sick. You can't be a successful student if you feel you are under attack by either the community or by the faculty or the system. You can't possibly be. So we all have to be far better prepared. And the way to keep people safe is through preparation and knowing, for information, who is here on this campus and what are they doing here. And so when we have invited speakers, which is perfectly reasonable, we just have to be able to be prepared for those kinds of situations. I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I don't think that people are against you because you're white or because you're any other color. I've lived for a long time giving people the benefit of doubt that they're really looking for good things and not for the negative in everything that I say. So.
May I jump in here real
Thanks.
quick? I think that also, in order to be a successful student, you have to have a well-rounded education. And I think that by filling in some of the blanks, that often when we go through secondary education, marginalized groups are systematically left out of history, left out of contributions to the building of America. And when we go through a system like that, then we tend to have certain ideologies that are constructed about other groups that are not like us. And so as a result of that, we form certain opinions. And when those opinions are brought here, we then don't understand the plight of others that don't look like us or that are from other groups. So I would suggest that if you're a part of any of these groups, that you take some of these classes that will educate you on racism, on oppression, on microaggressions, on all the things that we teach that will hopefully get you out of this school and help you be more competitive in a very competitive job market.
Anna?
So in terms of educating ourselves, I've been teaching since 2008, classes in immigration. Like I said earlier, it's our stock and trade. Mexican American Studies has devoted itself to that for the study of immigration. We were teaching immigration classes when nobody on campus was teaching immigration. Then everybody got on the immigration bandwagon. So there's a lot of classes out there on immigration, but there's a lot of students here, everybody feeling very passionate about immigration and the issues there, but I have to say that, we struggle with enrollments. I don't see students knocking down the doors who take an immigration class. Many of you might have already taken a class. Marla, you took my class. So as different classes will have different perspectives. I think teachers do really well in terms of trying to put factual information out there. So if you don't understand where we're coming from, where people of color are coming from, take classes in Africana Studies, take classes in American Indian Studies, take classes in Mexican American Studies, know other people and their struggles, and try to understand, just as we, as a person of color, have, for our lifetime, most of our lifetime, have been exposed to only one perspective, a Western perspective. So I think now it's time for those of you who are only exposed to Western perspectives, try the other flavor every once in a while and see what else we can learn from each other.
Nolan?
So I'm going to kind of come back to original point that I made about how it's easy to remain calm and even keel when you're not the one who's being targeted by this. Because when we're talking about the immigration debate and undocumented people, let's be clear, we're not talking about undocumented Canadians. And so the question is, who is under threat, especially in this border region? It's brown-skinned folk. And one of the difficulties that I have with the narrative that keeps coming out of the campus Republicans is that, well, we feel under threat, well, we feel under threat. I'm not really interested in feelings right now. I want to know who's objectively under threat. And objectively, it's brown bodies. And this is why I keep saying that there's a false equivalency that keeps being made when there's a very tangible threat constantly made to the community versus someone feeling uncomfortable with the situation. If you're feeling uncomfortable, maybe you should sit with that and try to, instead of taking the self-absorbed perspective, look at what other people are having to deal with and actually see what threats these folks are under on a regular basis. And also understand, it's not just undocumented folk. There are plenty of brown folk who've been detained by ICE, even if they're American citizens. It's an issue that's endemic in our community. And if you're not willing to understand across that, all you're going to do is basically engage in a form of public narcissism.
Thank you, Nolan. You know, in the newsroom, we had this very discussion there where many who were not Latinos, who were not people of color, couldn't understand that visceral reaction that happens to Latinos when you see a Border Patrol agent, when you see an ICE agent, and you've had a loved one who has been deported or who has been removed or who has been unjustly treated. It's a visceral thing, and I think that that's something that people who are not of color, I mean, I guess we're all of color in some way or another, need to understand that there is a visceral thing that happens to you. We have another question.
Hi, I'm Tara Seung-Hil, and I'm a future doctoral student in the higher education department. And I just wanted to reaffirm and amplify that this is a Hispanic serving institution. And it's really important that when we say all students need to feel safe here, that includes students who are from Latinx backgrounds, who could be impacted by Border Patrol being here. And that also reaffirm that we talked about that freedom of speech means that we're not policing tone or word choice, that the voices that are getting loud today and that are chanting are voices that haven't been brought to the table. And I wanted to ask, what are the plans to bring those voices of the people in this room that are chanting, that had to plan for that because they knew that their voices weren't originally going to be heard? What are the plans to bring those voices to the table?
So there are a variety of options moving forward that will be made available to a variety of voices that want to be part of the process. There will be a series of steps that the university will implement over the next few weeks, months, and years that include, as Brian had mentioned, not only the strategic plan, but also looking at the organizational health index, the 19-page demand letter that was presented, and other opportunities to bring to the table concerns that students, employees, and faculty have regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion here at the university. Looking at the affirmative action plan, other data and statistics, working in collaboration, again, across the board to ensure that this university is a world-class institution. We can't achieve that goal if all voices aren't provided an opportunity not only to be heard, but to participate in the process.
And the fact that this is happening is allowing your voices to be heard. It may not necessarily turn out the way that you want it to right now, but trust me, I would imagine that this group is going to get together with upper administration, and we're going to talk about and process everything that we've heard today and bring that into the strategic plan and some of these other conversations that are happening. So please, Be patient if you can, but trust that those that are up here are really working to make this place a better place.
Question?
My name is Sofia Martinez Ramos. I am adjunct faculty, have been adjunct faculty in Mexican American Studies. I'm a scholar activist and have been engaged in this conversation for about 20 years. I would like to thank Nolan, Ron, Carter, Anna for their work that has been longstanding. This is not a today thing. They've been working on this for many, many years, and I appreciate your work. Part of what is dismaying to me is the fact that this is a symptom of something that has been going on for as long as we all can remember. It's not that this is one isolated incident, it's that it's an ongoing struggle. And I appreciate Dr. Robbins, I appreciate the panel, I appreciate that this conversation is happening. And I think that we need to be very concerted and very mindful of what the next steps are. This is one conversation in many, many days of hard work that needs to happen. I believe that there needs to be a concilio formed, a council, to really look at what are the things that are being experienced on this campus. I believe we need a vice president of Latino Affairs. We have a vice president of Native American Affairs that is very successful. And I think that the conversation needs to be concerted, organized, and we really need to look at what needs to happen, not in anger, although anger and hurt and all of that is mixed in there, but let's be concerted. We have the most intelligent people in the country here at the University of Arizona. Let's put that intelligence to work. Thank you.
Thank you. I think one of the things that we should be mindful of is that this is a listening session. Problems can't be solved today. We have to listen. The university has to listen, and that's what they're doing today. I've got a question here that I think from the audience that many people and many journalists have been asking as well. As the university, isn't there a responsibility to notify students in a situation that could be dangerous for them? Why was there no effort to notify the students that Border Patrol would be on campus? And that's a conversation that needs to happen. I don't even know if legally the university can do that. I've been doing some research on that, and federal law does not allow a public university to ban a federal agency.
Can I
And
take
so, can you add to that?
Yeah, that's not what's
Completely
required,
true.
right? That's not, in some sense, what's required. What the question said is, why didn't students know? And this goes back to the letter that
Yes.
Madeline, it was the unannounced word that again, is hard to read. And so one of the plans that we're going to do is to put a system together that when groups do invite speakers onto campus, they're going to have to tell us who those speakers are. If you want a room on this campus to have a presentation, you're going to have to tell us who is going to be in that room, how big the room is, when, and then we're going to decide what those needs might be. So that's why no one was told, because no one knew until the event happened. Right, so.
Okay.
My name
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Fernando Nájera.
I'm sorry, let me listen. Okay, let's listen to Fernando.
My name is Fernando Nájera. I am a DACA recipient here at the University of Arizona.
Hold on.
And I would like...
We can't hear him.
Calm down.
Hold on.
Calm down.
I'd like to point out...
There we go.
I'd like to point out a pattern that I've been noticing as a student activist here. Since September of 2017, when DACA was rescinded, I've become active on this campus, asking administration to set up support systems for documented and undocumented students. However, this labor has rested on the backs of women of color who also share my status. The recent events that this campus conversation is trying to capitalize off of was off the backs of women of color who decided to stand up for people like myself, and this institution is capitalizing off of it with this excuse as a free speech event. None of the women who have been working to set up policies to protect people like myself are on this panel, and I would really like to call out the inappropriate nature of that decision. None of you are qualified to be on this panel to be speaking about this issue because none of you have been doing the work. None of you have been in the meetings with us. None of you have been extending invitations to speak to us, to meet with us.
Fernando, I extended an invitation to you personally to be on this
So
panel.
my question is, what systems and processes are actually being worked on to keep people like myself safe? What meetings have any of you taken with these women of color who have been working towards this? And when have you ever shown up?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I don't know that.
What systems are in place or being put in place to protect people with DACA statuses and undocumented statuses?
Before this point, nothing. I'm going to be honest. And as someone who has been a part of a lot of these conversations and interacting with a lot of the folks that are in the crowd, as well as some folks that have already graduated and been a part of a lot of these movements that you're talking about, no. Has the university done what it needed to do to support marginalized students of color? No. Are we going to? I hope so. And I think that this is the first step. I think students who have been a part of other presidencies here know that this probably would have never have happened. Right? If we're thinking about who used to be in charge here, probably would have never have happened. And so I know that a lot of people have strong thoughts about Dr. Robbins and some of our senior leaders. They're getting it, right? They're working. Right? Am I super proud with how we are and where we are right now? Do I think that the women should have been charged criminally? No. Right? But we have to acknowledge the fact of, if I would have talked to myself as a freshman, and when the list of demands first came out and all of the things that were happening, I would have told you that this would have been far between of what would have happened today. Never would have happened. Because there's a lot of thoughts about administration just turning a blind eye to students of color and students who are marginalized on this campus, faculty, staff included. I'm talking about students, but I mean everybody. And so I think that this is a step in the right direction. Have we gotten it right? No. And I will acknowledge that and own that as a representative of the university and as a student government representative. We have failed, period. But will we work to get better? Yes. Do I have faith in the folks that are sitting next to me? I'm graduating in a few weeks, but the folks sitting next to me, right? But do I have faith in the folks that are standing up here with me to do the right work? Do I know that there's still students on campus that are fighting the good fight? Yes. Do I think that we are going to get there? I do. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't mean it.
Question.
Hello, my name is Vanessa Perry. I'm Assistant Professor of Practice in the Counseling Program. I'm also an HSI Fellow. I'm a proud Latina. My grandparents were migrant workers who picked cotton, and it's because of their hard work that I have enjoyed the privilege of being a Latina professor. My question to you is, 1 year ago, the University of Arizona received its HSI designation, Hispanic Serving Institution designation. As an HSI in southern Arizona, the presence of Border Patrol and ICE is antithetical to our identity and forsakes our obligation to serve and protect the Latinx community. How do we reconcile our identity as an HSI with ICE and BP's traumatizing and antagonistic presence on campus?
It's a good point. Question. Any other questions?
Answer that. Robbins, answer that.
Let's keep going. I just wanted to mention one thing. When I was asked to moderate this panel, Fernando, I met you at another session we were at. We were on a panel, and I reached out to you and I said, I really think you should be on this panel. And I never heard back from you.
So what you did was you gave me a verbal invitation that I accepted in person, and you never followed up. And I'd also like to point out how it is also inappropriate that you're moderating this panel when the day of our protest you verbally harassed us over the phone when we wouldn't answer your questions that we had no obligation to answer. You also harassed people at the protest itself at ABOR with phones in their faces when they asked not to be photographed or spoken to. So I also would like Robbins to know that this whole panel is so inappropriate.
Well, believe me, Border Patrol feels exactly that way about me too. So I don't let Border Patrol tell me who to talk to, and I don't let students tell me who to talk to. That's part of being a journalist. Are there any other questions? Do we have any other Go ahead and take the microphone. Go ahead. All right. Hi, everyone. It's my turn. Thank you. Excuse me, can we have another person talk?
Hi, everyone. Yate Shea Carol Sinez Inisha. I introduced myself in Navajo, stating that my name is Carol Sinez. And something that we failed to do at the opening of this whole talk was recognize that we are on the tribal lands of the southern tribes here and the indigenous homelands of the Tanatam Nation.
I think, Anna, you did.
Yeah, we did. And I think a part of this is recognizing that we are on Tanatam land. If anybody goes on their phone right now and Google searches man run over by Border Patrol, you will see that there was a Tanatam man in June 2018 who was run over by Border Patrol. So the fact that there are people here who are extremely afraid at the fact that their presence is here is very much valid. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the university is built on Tanatam land, the fact that they are here continues to be very inappropriate. It's a struggle for Indigenous people to get to this university, and being faced with that criminalization every single day is a continued burden on this group of people. In addition to the fact that we are citizens is very frustrating because people forget that we are the first people here, in addition to our Latinx siblings as well. So my question is, the fact that we are an HSI and a Native American serving institution, which I don't think many people know, does this university care about these people, or is it just looking for the money that comes with this status?
Very good question. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Fadi Hobeish. I'm an appointed personnel at the College of Optical Sciences. I'm I'm Lebanese of origin, and I've seen both sides of the migration. I've lived it from the perspective that I am an immigrant. I came to the United States many years ago because we were driven out of our country by refugees and people that were non-Lebanese. So do you want to experience fear, persecution? You know, don't talk fear because, because of ICE and because of Border Patrol giving you fear. Talk about fear when you see gun in your face, when you have to experience real violence. This is awful. You guys talk about wanting things to be appropriate, be heard, but yet you break the law, just like you don't take your turn to come up here. If I'm driving down Speedway at 50 miles an hour at a 35 instead of 35 miles an hour speed limit, the cops are gonna stop me for breaking the law. I came to this country because I respect this country, because of its values, because of the law of the land, because we have to have some control. You want to go back to the Middle East, to chaos? I'll show you what chaos is. I've lived it. I was born in it. So don't tell me what chaos is and what violence is. So we need to follow the law. We need to respect our law officers. Thank you, President Robbins, for this, for the free speech, for allowing this. Thank you for this panel. And I'm going to say one more thing. Sorry, I lost this chain of thought here, but this is just, time is up. Thank you.
Time's up. Thank you.
One more thing.
Stop.
Yeah, you have to.
As a Lebanese, I was stopped many times by.
Excuse me. Please.
I was stopped even at the airport and
Sir,
searched.
your time is up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I don't mind.
Thank you, sir. Another question?
They're connected.
Another question? Go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Ana Martinez, and I'm a freshman at the UVA, but I am also a math tutor at Ross Ridge Bilingual Middle School. And
We can hardly hear you, Anna.
oh, I'm sorry.
There we go.
So, so I'm also a tutor at Bilingual Middle School. And, following off of the idea at the airport, actually, when I was about 7 years old, actually, my dad was going on a business trip, and we left him at the airport, and we left. But later, we got a phone call from him saying that he was afraid that he had forgotten his green card, and that it was in the wrong pocket of his pants. And my mom panicked and told him that to hide in the bathroom, just because we were not citizens at the time, and we were afraid that he would be sent to Mexico, even though we were here legally. We had been there. My parents had been there for almost 10 years. So even though, so I guess my question is, what are you doing not only to protect undocumented students, but also, other people of color who are here legally, who came here the right way, but are still targeted because of the way they look or the languages they speak?
Jeff.
I'm not going to have a great answer at this particular point in time that we're going to be able to stand up here and say that this campus, we're going to be able to protect everybody with certainty. We're going to do the best we can. We've got an incredibly strong team that are working on these kind of problems, and I just have a lot of faith in the team. After 34 years, this is the first event like this that I have seen. I agree with Nadalyn a great deal. There's been a tremendous change on this campus. When I get a chance to read the material that professors like Nolan write, and they bring these ideas to the forefront, that there are real systemic fundamental problems with how we treat each other. I mean, the best book that I have read this year is White Guys on Campus, Nolan's book. So I just think all I can say is that we are working hard to try to solve these kinds of issues. Do we have a solution right now? I just don't. I don't think we have that solution. That's exactly why we're here, to start to develop what are the questions and then how do we get those answers. But I do know we are ready to solve these problems, and I've worked with the president long enough to know that he is serious.
Thank you. That's exactly what I mean. Is that not disrespectful to him who was talking to break
It's okay.
in? We have another speaker.
I don't believe that was disrespectful. My name is Brian Sanders. I'm a private citizen and a journalist. Deeply ironic that this happened on March 19th. That's the same day in 2016 when I stood 20 feet away from Donald Trump and I shut down his little meeting at the Tucson Convention Center by calling him a liar. I called him a liar 20 times. I was asked to exit the building, and as I was on my way out, one of his supporters beat me up. The president, now the president, at that time just a candidate, went on TV and lied about me personally. He went to the Washington Post, he lied about me personally. I don't think, Mr. Robbins, that you understand the difficulty that people are facing out here speaking truth to power. You happen to make $988,000 a year. You're the president of a very powerful university here. When people confront you, your initial reaction says everything. And in the same way that the President of the United States went on TV and lied about me, and I received death threats for months about that, my family received death threats because of those lies that were told about me. Those reactions said everything about Trump. Your reactions are saying everything about you as well. And I do want to point out one thing I think that I appreciate that you've agreed to talk to me about is the fact that you sought out a meeting with Border Patrol yourself. You chose to do that in the days after this event. You did not choose to seek out a meeting with the students. And then another fact, which is that your office is represented by Chris Sigurdsson. Chris Sigurdsson also represents U of A Police Department. So how are we to believe that no decisions were impacted by your office? It's very troublesome for us to believe that. And I also just want to say, I am proud, personally, as an American, of those warriors who stood up to the Border Patrol and expressed their free speech rights.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Do we have others who are willing to speak out? Thank you. Do we have another question?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Michael McKenna. I'm in the...
Michael, you got to speak up.
I'm sorry. My name is
There you
Michael
go.
McKenna. I'm in the philosophy department here at the University of Arizona. For a little while, I was with the Center for the Philosophy of Freedom. I resigned a little while ago. However, during my time at the center, I did have the opportunity to have a couple occasions where some folks protested a couple of, or at least one of our events. And I myself confess that I found the protesters and the things that they were concerned about perfectly legitimate things for them to be concerned about it, and I respected their willingness and their bravery to do what they did, despite the fact that that some of my colleagues and I felt a bit threatened. And what I would hope is that at the university people would have an attitude like that, a welcoming attitude towards the kinds of things that had arisen that gave rise to these brave students doing what they did. My own thinking about this is just that as an educator, I think that sort of one of the most virtuous things that I can do in a classroom is to model a healthy response to protest and differences of opinion. And I think that the best way to do that is to try to celebrate those differences. And what happened here at the university is that apparently the university's first response was to be punitive. I mean, on several occasions when I felt in classrooms and there was serious disagreement, and during those disagreements, I made some effort to quell those disagreements, to move on in class, I often found that I regretted that. And I would go to those students and I would apologize for that. I confess, I understand that it would be very hard for the president to do this. But it does strike me that he does owe the students an apology, because I don't think a punitive response is the right response.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was handed a note. There is a lot of emotion that's flowing back and forth between all of us. And I think that it's important to note that if anyone has a need to speak with a counselor today, we have CAPS counselors available in the back of the room. So that's just a service that's available to you if you feel that you need to talk to someone. Another student? They're in the back of the room.
Hello.
Go ahead.
How's this? Better?
Yes, there you go.
Hello, my name is Marlene Effiwat. I'm a fifth-year senior here at the University of Arizona studying creative writing. I'll be receiving my master's in poetry at the Iowa Writers Workshop in August. Thank you very much. Thank you. I feel like this sort of panel is a showcase to pacify and distract from the real issues, honestly. A large portion of the United States population does not trust the Border Patrol, and that is what should be investigated. We have a social contract with them as they're part of the government, and they are obligated to uphold it to the satisfaction of the people, keyword satisfaction. Prosecuting students was a distraction because someone was panicking that students were speaking out against Border Patrol, an organization warped by money who are interested in protecting global capital and imperialism by any means necessary. And I'm wondering what the university has to say for itself in its participation in smoothing over rather than encouraging students to challenge abusive authority. Also, in regard to the Lebanese man who spoke, my family immigrated from Nigeria. I'm Black in America. Like, I understand intimidation. Also, you can't, sorry, 1 minute. You can't discredit other people's hard times just because you've also had hard times. Like,
Good.
It's awesome that we're having these conversations, but there's a lot more work to do, and let's not be complacent.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're getting comments coming in online. We are broadcasting this live. Here's one of the questions. In President Robbins' opening remarks, he noted that there is no easy way to measure safety or fear. However, there are several scholars at the U of A who study these topics. There are indeed measures of safety, and the U of A itself has done a climate of surveys to tap into the campus culture. He needs to be made aware of these measures and utilize the resources on campus to help him understand the disparities on our campus in terms of safety and belonging. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yes. My name is Laura. I'm from an immigrant background, and I just want to say that allowing Border Patrol on campus demonstrates to me that this institution does not care about me, my family, or my community. It demonstrates that the needs of some students are worth more valuable than needs of me and other students like me in my community. The mere presence of Border Patrol on campus is distressing, regardless of whether they can legally apprehend me or not. And this panel talks about healing, that we should move to a stage of healing. I cannot heal when Border Patrol is still out on campus. I cannot heal when this institution is not doing anything concrete to help me and my community. And I just think it's really, really easy to ignore this and to gaslight it and to simplify it when you're not directly impacted by Border Patrol, by ICE, by this whole environment. I'm in constant stress, I'm in constant threat, even though I'm a US citizen. My academic standing is in jeopardy because of the constant stress I'm in. And I thought this institution was like one of the few spaces in which I could develop as an individual, like outside of all the other outside straits that I'm constantly in because of my family, because of the immigration debate. And I guess I was foolish to believe that this institution actually cared and I could actually feel safe and my family could feel safe in this institution. So I think you should do something concrete. I think talking about this is not enough. I think you need to take action and you need to listen to the people that are directly impacted by this.
Would someone like to comment on that? Ron? Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. For those of you in the room who don't know me, my name is Carlin Bradley, and I am certified that So I am going to give some, so first of all, I want to name a whole bunch of things that are happening. One, I think that it is really irresponsible for you as the president to have made the directive for charges to be made and then to shield yourself behind these panelists. It is a lack, that demonstrates a lack of accountability on your part to make folks who had nothing to do with this decision-making process responsible for the mess that you have created. So I want to say that it is a show of your leadership, or lack thereof, to hide behind mostly POCs like that. I also want to say to Nancy, it is interesting that you are saying that you are moderating, but moderating what in the context of what? We live in the United States, as someone mentioned, on stolen land, under white supremacy, in a country that was built on theft, on genocide, on racism, on terrorism, on violence. We already know what the other side is because this institution is built with, there are monuments to the histories that a lot of us have lived and have been traumatized by. So to say that we need to hear from both sides is a way to silence marginalized people because we already know what the dominant narrative is. The dominant narrative is that we do not belong here. The dominant narrative is that it is okay for violent governments and systems and policies and people to terrorize us as people of color. You are being irresponsible by saying that we need to hear both sides when we already know what white supremacy has told us because a lot of us have internalized it. We have seen it from the people who have immigrated here and have assimilated and have talked about the rhetoric of you need to do these things the right way. We already know what both sides, we already know what the other side is. Also,
thank you.
Hold on.
Time is over.
I just want to wrap up real fast.
Whoa.
Thank you.
I also want to name one other thing. Jeff, please don't get me started on you because I have an email in my inbox about how you talked about.
I'm sorry, but your time is over.
I want to name one last thing because the community has said that it's okay for me.
Your time is over.
The community has said it's okay for me to finish.
Your time is over.
I just want to say one more thing. We have already.
One more person to speak, please.
May I finish my statement real quick? Thank you. So I just want to say one more thing. We have already, as Madeline has pointed out, also shout out to Madeline for being the only person to be explicit about the truth and not hiding behind double talk. Thank you, President. I appreciate you. We have already had conversations. President Hart created the Diversity Task Force when the list of demands were created by the students, and the university did the same thing. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna make committees, we're gonna plan, we're gonna strategize. We've already done that. That was 4 years ago. We need to move on beyond that. People need to start accepting responsibility for the things that they have done and that they don't know.
Okay, we're on live and we've got to stay on track here. I'm sorry, but thank you very much. We have come to the end of our conversation. Jeff, would you give us a closing?
I think we have one more.
One more question?
Yeah.
We have one more question.
Yes, Dr. Robbins, I'm a physician scientist, and I recently received a letter of congratulations from you for a large grant from the Arizona Board of Regents, and I thank you for that letter. I should have been in my lab working today, but I felt it was important to come and stand in solidarity with these students wearing the white t-shirts here. If there's anything that I can do to promote their careers in science and medicine, I'm available to help mentor. I don't know if there's a process to do that, but in science and medicine, we need diversity, and we must pay attention to people that are oppressed and those that are strangers in strange lands. And so I'm available to do what I can do to help those that would like a career in science or medicine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
We've come to the end of this session, and again, remember, this is a beginning, not an end. It's a rocky beginning, but it is a beginning. Jeff?
Yeah, let me close a little bit. First off, I want to thank everyone for being here. Literally, in 34 years, I have never seen anything like this. I've never seen this level of passion around ideas, and so I want to say thank you to especially the group up in front here who we're learning every single day, even at 61 years old, learning every single day, and we can't do it without hearing both sides of this discussion. This is really just the start. Again, I go back 30 years when this campus was 10% Hispanic students. It was a couple of thousand students. Now it's 10,000 students. So we have made progress. Are we all the way there? Of course not. Do we think the team is getting better? We brought Ron Wilson in to really work the list of demands. And we do pledge that we're going to start to work that list and make progress on that. And so I will promise that by the end of the summer, everyone in leadership on this campus will go through diversity and inclusiveness training. I will make that. I'll be happy to do that. Again, let me just thank everyone. This is the first meeting. The next one will likely be in the fall. We'll take this and digest, get some ideas, and we're going to come back with answers, and they're right on it. Yeah.
And now we come to the end of this show. Right now it is being live casted on azpm.org. You can go there and hear it again. Thank you all for being here.
Okay.